How's it going? Hopefully everybody's doing all right. This video, I'm going to tell how I retired, or sort of retired, before I was 50 years old. Here pretty soon, I'm on the verge of being 48 years old, and I don't have to work that much unless I wanted to or want to. And I want to. I love working. I love doing stuff, being productive. But I think it's good to put yourself in a position where you don't have to work if you don't want to. You work because you want to, not because you have to. So how did I do it? How did I retire, sort of retire? When I say sort of, because I'm not going to sit around, because I'm not 65, 70 years old. I'm still fairly young, fairly healthy. And I want to live life on my own terms, which is why for decades I socked money away, invested money, lived frugally, so I can have this option, which I got now. So let me kind of tell you a little bit about how I did it. So ever since, almost my whole life, honestly, I've been very, very good with money, or wanted to be good with money and with my finances. And I wanted to make money work for me, not having to work for money. So even when I didn't have much money, I tried to live within my means and find different ways to make money and sock money away. And then so I did various jobs that I wanted to do. I played music, still play music, personal trainer, still a certified personal trainer. And I just pursued things that I enjoyed and hopefully made enough money to get by at, so I could be somewhat happy. And for the most part, that happened. Then in my late 20s, I went back to college and tried college again. The first time around, I didn't do so well. Wasn't focused, didn't know why I was there. So then I got 2 degrees, an undergrad degree and a master's degree, and started working in higher education. Did that for over a decade. And that whole entire decade, those same habits, even though my income was substantially greater, my spending habits weren't. So I always tried to live on less than half of what I made. So live on 50% of my income. Some months I was living on, I was saving 60, 70% of my income. And so I don't care what your income is, when you do that, can live on half of your income, 40% of your income, you are gonna be in a good shape over time. Now, which brings me to this point. Overtime is super important. It's not get rich quick. I was enjoying what I was doing, and I had the numbers, the goals in mind, those financial freedom numbers that was way down the road. So you have to have a long-term vision. Y'all probably heard, if you put away so much money when you're 20 years old, 25 years old, how much that compounds ends up being by the time you're 65, 70 years old. And that's true, but you can accelerate it by living on less than 50% of your income and socking away, investing the rest. So that's what I did. I lived frugally. Doesn't mean I would deprive myself. I don't feel like I've deprived myself at all. I figured out what was important to me, what I like doing, what I enjoy spending my free time doing, the kinds of people I made a priority to be around. Then as long as I got that figured out, spent my days and time being around those people and doing the activities, the interests that I like doing, then I was good. And I didn't need the extra money. I've never been big into material things, like, for instance, which I'll make a video about the vehicle I drive. It's a 20-year-old car, and I can afford to get another car, a new car. But why? The car, I love my car, and it's great. It's dependable. It gets me from point A to point B. So I don't want another car. And I hadn't had a car payment since 1999. So all that money that usually people use for a car payment to keep up with the Joneses, or feel like they need to have a brand new car or whatever, that was going towards my retirement, investing. But I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. So that's just one example. Now, in full disclosure, and this is big because people always, well, I could retire early too if I didn't have kids. Well, hopefully you plan to have kids and plan to have a family. I didn't. I didn't want kids. I never wanted kids. I love kids. I love animals. I love kids. I like being around kids, but I didn't want any for myself. Sometimes, like on holidays or something, I think, well, it might have been cool to have some kids, but then that fades. I love kids, but I love being uncles or something. So not having kids was huge. I couldn't retire, honestly, if I had kids. But that was a decision I made. That was a priority I made. I was very careful not to have kids. And when you don't have kids, of course, you got money freed up to do other stuff or put more away for retirement and things. So full disclosure, no kids, which probably allows people to retire early than the average age. But it's possible, if you wanted to, I would think, to be able to retire sooner than the average traditional age. Even if you have kids, it's harder to do, and you might not be able to retire as early as some unless you have a very high income. So, full disclosure, no kids, and that certainly was a contributing factor of me being able to retire early. So no car payment since 1999, living on half of my income, socking away the other half instead of the traditional 10% like most personal finance people recommend you do. Another thing is no house payment. How did I end up having no house payment? I made videos about this you could check out on this channel, but to reiterate, I bought fixer-uppers that were well within my budget. And I bought a house, and thanks to my family, they're very handy. We have a history of fixing up homes, and I saved a bunch of money there, saved a bunch of money on my mortgage, and therefore my first house was cheap. Sold it, or I fixed it up, sold it for a really good profit, went from a more expensive area to a less expensive area, got more home for less with my second house, and I paid that off in 4 years. And how did I pay that off in 4 years? Again, you can check out the videos. I'll put the video links to this in the video description and cards on this video, but I just paid more. You could get on there and do an amortization schedule, at least through my mortgage company, my bank, you could. And you could play around with those calculators. What if I put $50 extra a month, $100 a month extra on my mortgage payment, $200 a month, so on and so forth, $500. And you would see the years and the months just reduce from my 30-year mortgage to 5-10 years. So I aggressively paid that off. Now, was that a smart decision? I don't know. I'd have to run the numbers. I think it's smart psychologically. Gave me peace of mind. Didn't have to, work as much or make as much since I got my mortgage paid off. But some recommend you rent and not have a mortgage, and instead invest it. So the returns you get in the stock market or through investing equal more than your mortgage payment, or you can make more over time than your money going towards paying off your mortgage. Then that's a smart financial move. So I'll let others debate that. I might make a video on that and kind of run the numbers and look at that, if in fact that was a good move. But I sold my first, I didn't pay my first house off, but I made a huge profit on it when I sold it. Bought low, fixed it up, sold it, made a big profit, moved to a cheaper area, got more house for less, and was able to take the profits from the first home, pay off or pay down a substantial amount on my second home. And in 4 years, I looked at that amortization schedule. It became a game. How soon can I pay off my mortgage? And so I did in 4 years. And I think it's been 5 or 6 since I've done that. And did I splurge? Did I do anything out of the ordinary that I usually do? Did my standard of living increase? Not really. I used almost, once I paid it off, I just took the money that was going towards mortgage and put it in my investments. So I had multiple investments since I worked in higher education. I had a 403B that I contributed to every month. For those of y'all in the private sector, it's basically your 401k, a 457 Roth, 457B, I think it is, Roth IRA, because I needed a bucket before 59 and a half to tap into if needed. And so I did that, contributed to that, have individual stock brokerage account portfolios that I've another bucket. So I had all these buckets, of course, savings, 6 to 12 months expenses. So I was just socking that money away that most people use on kids and raising their family, which is certainly a priority. God bless them. On automobiles, vehicles. So the money I would use for a car payment was going towards investments, my retirement, and the money that typically goes towards a mortgage, which is a lot. That's usually the biggest expense, fixed expense people and families have. That was going towards my retirement. And like I said earlier, it was like a game. And all this was like, man, it is possible. So you all probably heard of the FIRE movement. I was doing this stuff before I even knew what the FIRE movement was or is. FIRE stands for, it's an acronym for Financial Independence, Retire Early. But I was doing that because I was reading Your Money or Your Life when I was in my teens. That's a great book, by the way. I'll do a review on that book. Very influential book by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. But this has been the habits that I've had for years, decades. And it has come to fruition now to give me the option of financial freedom, whether to work or not work. So, I'm not even 50 yet, and I don't have to work if I didn't want to, but I do want to work. It doesn't mean I'm going to work for a company or institution, organization, like the stereotypical job is. But I think people are fulfilled when they're challenged, when they're figuring out stuff, when they're creating stuff, building stuff, helping people out. There's various ways that you feel valuable and important. And that's what I say. I want to work, right? I was lucky when I worked in higher education, get plenty of time off. We're talking 6 weeks a year if you wanted it. So I was always taking vacations and traveling and things, and I enjoyed it. I love traveling, but there is a balance where you feel like you want to do something. You can only sit on a beach for so long. I love beaches, and but it's good to have, whether it's a hobby, part-time job, that you can feel challenged by and make you feel valuable. Volunteering, another thing. So I'm gonna definitely be occupied. I mean, this YouTube channel is one of those. I've been doing YouTube since 2014, not necessarily this channel, but I love that. That's a great creative outlet. It's a great way to make an income, and so definitely I'll be doing that. But the reason I want to make this video is to let people know that it is possible to retire before the traditional age if you want to, even if you have kids in the family. It's probably harder than a single guy that has no kids, no family. But if you live frugally, live within your means, especially if you do work that you enjoy, that you're proud of, that it don't feel like you're going to a job, because I certainly didn't feel like what I was doing, like the income was secondary in my job. So, but it's certainly possible. Just gotta live within your means, always find ways to create income streams, or if you don't want to create income streams, try to find ways to make more at your current job or your current business and sock that money away. Don't listen to people that, you know, say 10%. If you could save and invest more than 10% of your income, then your retirement day, your option to retire, will come a lot sooner. So I'm blessed, I'm happy, I'm grateful that I'm in this position. I'm excited of what lies ahead. As I've talked to too many people over the years that were miserable at their jobs. They had to stay in their jobs because of financial obligations, and they couldn't retire. They were just seeing this golden number, this magical Social Security age of when they could finally retire. And I've talked to too many people that tell me that, man, I wish I would have retired 5-10 years sooner than I did, because now I can't either physically do the things I want to do or have the energy to do the things I want to do. So now I didn't want that. I wanted the option to call my own shots, to work because I wanted to, not because I have to, make time my priority. The thing all through my life, other than spending, giving people presents, my family, and friends presents, or going traveling, the thing I love spending money on the most was buying time. And for decades, been buying time. I didn't see the immediate results right away. When, some people are out buying gadgets and fancy things, fancy clothes, I was like, man, I just want to buy time. And one day, you'll have plenty of time. And thankfully, it didn't just happen, right? I planned on it, had discipline, was consistent. But thankfully, I bought time now, so where I can do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. And I'm not even 50 years old. So I didn't want to, brag or tell my situation or make it all about my situation, but hopefully there's some lessons in there if somebody wants the option to retire. If you can't stand your job, then hopefully the videos that you'll see on this channel and my experience, my habits, maybe, if you want to call it that, of implementing every single year till I got to this point. Hopefully that will be helpful to somebody out there, at least give you the option. Like I said, I'm not saying retire and do nothing, because plenty of people have done that and don't know what to do with themselves. They feel lost, and then they'll go back to their working in an office or a cubicle, which is great if that's what fulfills you. But I just want people to have the option that I have now. And if you're young, you know, 20s, early 20s, late teens, early 20s, through your 20s, I mean, y'all sitting pretty. You just gotta sacrifice, hopefully find work that you love, sock away that money, let it grow for you, and you will have, probably a lot sooner than me, have that option. If you're not in your 20s, if you're in your late 30s, your 40s, it's not too late. Just kind of maybe tweak one or two things, free up some money in that budget here and there, and you could probably retire earlier than you wanted to. But I want to stress this point. It's not about retiring necessarily. It's about living every day, doing what you want to do. And many times people can't retire because of their financial situation. And that's when we got to figure out how